Yo, 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 welcome to another episode of the Culturally Controversial Podcast, man. I'm your host, Simply Nicholas87, and my co-host, Ty H.
Good evening, people. Good evening.
Good evening. And for all the new people that have subscribed to the channel, y'all hit that subscribe, but also hit the notification bell, let you know when we're ready to go live or whatnot. Um, last week we were on, last week we did the Piedmont preview, Piedmont a recap, and Mount
Now,
Pleasant
Albert, is that a
preview.
recap of Albemarle versus
Vance,
and
yeah.
then Advancing versus Mount Pleasant?
Yeah. So this week we're gonna do the recap of the Mount Pleasant game, which I didn't go to that game, but you were there, and tell me what you see, man. Just give it to us.
I saw a team completely fall apart in the fourth quarter. You're talking about a game of missed opportunities. In the first half, we got in scoring position probably three times and came away with 0 points. I recall the opening drive, march all the way down, close to the red zone, fumble the ball, which
Who
was
knows what's going on?
unacceptable. We fumbled in every game this year. That's unacceptable. The second drive, we get all the way down to about the 15-yard line. We throw an interception around the 5-yard line. That's 14 points right there. You should have had. There was a third opportunity we got down. We actually scored a touchdown, but it was called back due to a legal man downfield. This ball at this point was around the 3-yard line, but the penalty pushed us back. We ended up turning it over on downs on that drive. But we managed to get a safety before halftime from a bad snap of Mount Pleasant, up 2-0. What bothered me about this is the lack of urgency in this game. It seemed like when it got up 2-0 from players and from coaching, it seemed like they were content as if we would win the game 2-0. And then after Mount Pleasant scored a touchdown, they go up 8-2. We matched that touchdown on a beautiful throw to receiver, I believe number 19, ended up going up 9-8. And then defense was still playing well as it had played the majority of the game. We were doing a good job containing Mount Pleasant's option attack. Then next thing you know, we throw a pick six on a tunnel screen where the safety jumps it, takes it back to the house. And from that point on, this maybe with like 8 minutes left. We're up like 9-8 with like 8 minutes left. Final score ended up being 30-9. This was a game where in the fourth quarter we just fell apart. It seemed like, against a team like Mount Pleasant, there's nothing fancy you're going to see. It's just a team that just continue to throw body blows after body blow. And it seemed like as we continue to just get punched, we fell apart. This was a poorly managed game. I know we threw 3 interceptions in this game. We threw 4 interceptions. Hyatt threw 3 and Hickson threw 1. You threw 4 interceptions, and all 4 of those were bad. These weren't like, oh, the defense just made a play. These were horrendous interceptions that were thrown. That didn't help one bit. Certainly, plus the fumble, so that's 5 turnovers. When you turn the ball over 5 times, it's going to be very hard to beat anybody. Another thing that bothered me, the red zone play calling was atrocious. When we marched up and down the field, it wouldn't surprise me if we outgained the opponent in total yardage. Every time we got plus territory or got in the red zone and near the red zone, play calling became atrocious. There was one point even coming out of a timeout. And we ended up turning over on downs a couple plays later.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is what we came up with coming out of a timeout. And this is not a knock on anybody personally, but not only was this a poorly executed game, this was a poorly coached game too. Because for your team to fall apart like that, you can't have that. And just the game management, especially when the ball's in the red zone, sometimes the play calling was a little too conservative for my liking. You got those athletes like Sturman, number 10, the other receiver, number 19. These guys, Mount Pleasant's guys couldn't cover these guys for anything. These guys, you got an open space. There was nothing they could do to stop these guys, and you're continuing just to be conservative at times. And when it didn't make sense, and even with your passing attack, it's like you're acting like you're scared to go vertical when you had athletes go vertical on this team. And ultimately, it cost them because they started to sit on that short passing attack, and that's how they were jump some of those routes. That's how that pick six happened. So, I mean, yes, execution was bad. I know coaches don't turn the ball over, but it was a poorly executed and poorly coached game. And this is when it comes to losses, this one was quite unacceptable. You lost to a team that you were far superior to, and you had far better athletes than, but your own mental errors is what cost you in this game. I was very disappointed Friday night because they played similar to how they played against Albemarle. You would have thought that scare would have had them prepared, but at the end of the day, these are kids, and it's up. You still have people teaching and preparing them, and you can't have that back-to-back weeks. You end up stealing the win on the first one against an inferior team. You end up losing to an inferior team this time. It's not going to get any easier. You got Pageland coming up, and then you got Monroe after that. At some point, it's time to wake up. If we continue to look like we looked the last 2 weeks, it'll be a challenge to win another game. This team has potential to win. This is a team that can win 7 games. They have that kind of talent. But right now, the talent isn't playing up to the level that it's capable of. It's not playing up to the level of talent, and it's playing down to its competition. And when a team is not ready or not prepared to play, there's no excuse for that. And that's back-to-back weeks where a team looked not prepared to play, and where this team seemed like when things began to break down or when things got tough, like there was no ability to adapt and the team fell apart. You can't continue to have that. And like I said, what I saw Friday was completely unacceptable. There's no way to sugarcoat that. There's no way to spin that. And I think that staff will tell you, I think if you talk to the staff right now, the coaching staff right now, I think they conclude that we got out executed on the field and we got out coached.
Like I said, I didn't go to the game, so I couldn't tell you what I seen. But like I said, I agree with probably a lot of stuff. If they went out like they did against Albemarle, I'm pretty sure that's what the outcome was. It started off slow and they couldn't get going. They just stayed slow the whole game.
Yeah, but think about it, Nick. They're marching the ball up and down the field, but coming away with 0 points. Like you're marching the ball all the way into the red zone majority of the time and coming away with 0 points.
You got to come up with some kind of points. 3, 7, whatever. You got to come up with something at that point.
Yeah, but like I said, the play calling between the 20s is fine. When they get down to the red zone, the play calling becomes atrocious at that point. It's almost like they tighten up. And then oftentimes, which it's too much fumbling. I'm about to say we fumbled open possession in the red zone, and I'm not going to call a kid by name, but your starting running back is showing every game that is going to fumble. At some point, that has to be evaluated. It's like, hey, this is something that we got to evaluate and work on. Our starting tailback ended up getting hurt and was on crutches, so that's going to give an opportunity for another young back to step up. Number 7, May, I think he's an excellent back, and I think he can play. And I think if he gets a shot at getting the bulk of the carries, he's gonna keep that job, which he should be the starting tailback anyway. And I'll leave it to that. But he's a sophomore, not a senior, so I guess he had to continue. He outplayed everyone who's ahead of him on the depth chart, but still was in the same place on the depth chart each week. But now I think tomorrow you're going to see him get the bulk of the carries. And he has juice and he holds onto the ball. Right. So I think he should be the starting tailback no matter what happens with the injury situation. As far as tomorrow's concerned, Pageland schematically is similar to Mount Pleasant, except Pageland actually has good athletes. So you're going to see the same type of offense, but this time you got athletes that can burn you.
Yeah.
At this point, it's up to them. I mean, it's going to come down to your toughness again. If you want to win the game, all you got to do is go out there and do it. But it's not going to just happen, and your opponent's not going to lay down. You got to go out there and have the attention to detail. You got to do the tough things. You got to do the tough mental things, the little things. Get lined up right, and not getting pre-snap penalties. Not turning the ball over. They're going to be physical too. You have to match the physicality. When you're playing against a tough team, you can't have a meltdown as you continue to get gut punches because they're going to just keep coming at you again and again and again. You have to be able to withstand it and have the mental fortitude to withstand it. That's what bothered me about last Friday is the way the team fell apart. That showed lack of mental toughness. That showed lack of fortitude, and I didn't like that at all. And I'm afraid going against Pageland. Pageland does the same things that Mount Pleasant does, but only even better and with better athletes. And even though we had athletes, we should have blown Mount Pleasant out. We should have won the game by 3 or 4 touchdowns last week. And we have athletes we should be able to beat. We should be able to beat Pageland as well. But the thing is, it's not going to just happen. You got to go out there and do it. You have to be focused. If they're not focused and not out there executing at a high level, then you're going to lose just like you did last week. And at some point, there has to be a sense of urgency. So I don't know what's going to happen, and they got to show me. They got to show me.
I'm put it like this: you in week 6. You at the end of this non-conference journey. You should be focused. You should be correcting mental errors, but it's like you're going backwards now.
Right. You're more sloppy than you were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. You're more sloppy.
And so that's what I mean when I say preparation and being out coached and all that. Because when your team is being prepared, how in the world is your team getting worse when it comes to the little things as the year progresses? You shouldn't be getting worse with routine things like getting lined up, like running personnel on off the field. You don't have enough personnel at the last second. You're running and left as a man on the field. Stuff like that shouldn't be happening after 6 games.
No, not at 6.
Right. So no matter how you feel about it, that's unacceptable. This is not just coming down on any individual, but you can't continue to have that, especially as the season goes on. Those are things that you should be seeing less and less of, whereas instead we're seeing more and more of it. And you can't have that. And I'm completely disappointed in that.
Yeah, like I said, at this point now, because we've been saying this for the last 3 weeks. It's not getting any easier from here. We've said this the last 3 weeks. This is not going to get any easier. You're going to play a physical Pageland team like you played last week for Mount Pleasant, but like you said, they're more faster, more athletic. You're going to see. Like, this team will hit you in the mouth, and it might not be pretty if they get going.
Right. And this is where you got to – and the thing about I know we got the athletes. I'm probably got more athletes than they got. That's not the issue. The issue is not to self-destruct. Last week, Mount Pleasant did nothing but just run the ball up the middle and wait for us to self-destruct. And we self-destructed, and they were able to pounce on it. And to watch that team fall apart like this and knowing the kind of talent, it was scary because it was reminiscent of how the 2018 season ended. And when we got off to a good start of the year, had excellent athletes, we had a good team. In the middle of the year, our record was something like 3-2. And then we just fell apart. And that was reminiscent of that. And at this point, we've seen this happen before. So, of course, we might be overreacting, but we have every good reason to overreact because in the past, when we've seen the team faced with a challenge or adversity, appreciate it, Smokey Furman.
What's up, Smokey?
Put the comment up. Oh, you got it. There we go. In the past, we've seen them fall apart like that. So we know that under this regime, we know that challenge of preventing the team from falling apart has been present and oftentimes been a struggle. So when we see them fall apart in a game like that, it makes you wonder, okay, who's going to step in and make sure this team doesn't fall apart when things get tough? And so that's a scary thing. Let's get down with some let's go Dolphins. Okay. I don't hate the Dolphins.
That sucks.
I don't hate the Dolphins. They're all right. I didn't like how they did Brian Flores, but they're all right.
Yeah.
But back to what I was saying, man. At this point in the year, there's no more excuses, and it's going to get tougher. At this point, you got to win ball games, man. I don't want to hear about the team being young and all that. I understand you're young, but it's like they have more experience now than they had a few weeks ago.
Right.
And when it comes to the errors that are being made aren't errors that are exclusive to youth. Like the things that I'm saying has nothing to do with whether someone's a sophomore, junior, senior. This is routine stuff. Right. Getting lined up right, holding on to the ball. When you're fumbling the ball in the red zone, that has nothing to do with being a sophomore or junior. And there's a senior who and most of the turnovers are coming from your seniors. Actually, out of the 5 turnovers that took place, 2 of them came from seniors and 3 of them came from a junior. And so it has nothing to do with the youth of the team. That's a crutch and an excuse. And The responsibility is to win with what you have.
Right.
There's talent there, and you can win with it. It's a matter of making it happen or not. Because it can't continue to be excuse year after year after year. Well, it was this. Well, it was that. Well, it was the pandemic. Where they're young. I've heard the young thing several years throughout the years, and then the pandemic. After a while, when the results are not there, is what else can you turn to and come up with?
It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So I mean, look at it like this, man. You got to win tomorrow, and after tomorrow, I'm put it like this: you got to win at least 3 of those 4 games after tomorrow. You got
Well,
to.
yeah, well, and like I said, let's start with tomorrow before we get to the other ones.
Yeah, but what I'm just saying, like in general, like after tomorrow, that's dead. That's dead business. Win or lose, you start conference next week.
Yeah, and with that against the Monroe, and you know the crazy thing about it, and as good as Monroe is, and the way they've been blowing people out, as far as athlete for athlete, we have the athletes to play with them. It just you have to play a mentally strong game. Like
Dang.
you can't have drops and fumbles and nothing like that. You'll get run out stadium. But as far as pound for pound, athlete for athlete, we got speed and stuff to run with them. And
Yeah.
sometimes in a game like that, the antennas be up in a team like Monroe, they come out like a daisical. And you stand again early, you know you can get something going, and you know anything can happen.
Hey, shout out to my guy Charles Holly, man. What's going on, Charles Holly? Appreciate you for following through. Former
Appreciate
Bearcat
you.
himself.
So when you have and then with Monroe's quarterback, I mean he's originally from Anson County. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know the kid, but I've been hearing it swirling around that he looks at this game as like a personal opportunity to really to show off against Anson County.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the kid's personal life or anything like that, and I'm not trying to get into that. But what I will say is, if the young man comes into that game with a personal vendetta, and the focus is about him showing off on Anson, that could be to our advantage because if he's so emotional to where he's just focused on showing out against us, sometimes you can lose your focus on the team concept and end up making mistakes because you overhype yourself and got yourself too emotional. And sometimes that could be an advantage to the other team. So if the young man wants to be a personal vendetta against Anson, he has to remember it's Monroe playing against Anson, not just him. And if it's his personal vendetta to show out against Anson, sometimes you lose your focus and get too emotionally caught up in that individual personal vendetta you have and end up costing your team. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
that could be a big blow if considering that by word of mouth that they are the favorites to win that conference.
They'll be the favorite. Monroe will be favored to beat us by 3 or 4 touchdowns, and rightfully so. But that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen.
It happens, right? Yeah, it's not going.
Yeah, but the first step of getting on the right track is you need to start establishing good habits. You need to start establishing good habits tomorrow. At
Yep.
this point, I don't know what it'll take to get this team executing. It's like the execution's gotten worse as time goes on. We got 2 good athletes if we don't have a winning season this year, there'll be no excuse for that. Especially off the start, we got to. Got off with 1-3 first 4 games. If you end up with a losing season this year, there will be zero excuse for it. I don't want to hear about pandemic or anything. The circumstances wouldn't be any different than they were at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
Also, tomorrow is going to be an emotional environment for the entire community. That's going to be a game where you got a community this morning that's looking for an outlet to heal it. And anybody who's listening, if you're not from Anson County or haven't been paying attention to the news, unfortunately, we lost our sheriff down in Anson County. Sheriff Landry Reed passed away unexpectedly. Landry Reed was a man who was beloved by the community. And when I say beloved, he was beloved by Black people. He was beloved by white people. He was beloved by liberals. He was beloved by conservatives. He was beloved by independents. One thing about Sheriff Reed is he was a person who had a uniting presence about himself. He was a person where you left your ideology at the door when he was in the room. So one thing about it, he commanded the room to where when he spoke, Democrats listened. When he spoke, Republicans listened. When he spoke, Black people listened. When he spoke, white people listened. When he spoke, everyone listened. And and if you look around and you hear the comments and you see the mourning, people from all walks of life are mourning, whether they're liberal, whether they're conservative. It did not matter. That's the impact this man had. So you have a mourning community over the loss of a great man. And I'll even say that I thought well of him. I'll even say that he was a giant among men. I'll say, and one thing I like the most about him is from my vantage point, from my viewpoint, it seemed like he always tried to be fair. I'm not going to go out here and say he was a perfect man and that every single little thing that he said or done was always 100% something I agree with. But I think for the most part, he tried his very best to be fair, and he wasn't partisan. He tried to call things right down the middle, do the right things. And I think he wanted whatever result happened from any action he took, he wanted it to be based on the truth and based on the information that was at hand and based on fair data. I'm about to say, I hate when someone try to, for those who are listening, for those of you who are listening, that's back-to-back calls. For those of you who are listening, every Thursday at 8, I'm doing this podcast. If it's not an emergency, quit effing calling me. And I'm not going to say it nicely anymore. If it's not an emergency, quit effing calling me. Yeah, and don't call me back-to-back. If it's that important, leave me a message and I'll get back to you. But quit effing calling me every Thursday when you know I'm doing this at 8 o'clock. And I'm not going to say it nicely anymore. All right, now back to what I was talking about. This is a community this morning, and sometimes sports is a big outlet for that. And sometimes those emotions even carry on into the venue. So, I mean, you got to manage those emotions. You got to manage the emotions of the room as well. And, we watched this from afar last year. About a year ago, we were doing a show at Richmond County. Lost his sheriff unexpectedly, Sheriff Jim Clemens.
Yeah.
And we talked about it here, and we watched that. And from afar, we watched our sisters and brothers from our neighboring county, Richmond County, mourn the loss of their sheriff. But it's a little bit different when it's your very own. And the outpouring that's come from Richmond County has been very welcoming and happy. And I'm happy to see it because I know that they know exactly what the people of Vance County are going through and what they feel like. And when you look at the parallels, Sheriff Clemens was the first African-American elected sheriff in Richmond County. It was the present sheriff at the time of his death. Sheriff Reed was also the first African-American elected as sheriff and to serve as sheriff in Anson County. So you join those parallels. Both of these men were trailblazers and history makers in their respective counties. Both of these men had the respect of both sides of the political spectrum as well. Both of these men had respect for all races as well. And now they're both no longer with us. But I think I can confidently say that that Sheriff Clem was there to welcome Sheriff Reed when he walked in. I'm sure Sheriff Clem was the first one to greet Sheriff Reed when he walked in. I'm sure that Sheriff Clem was the first one to say, look at what we've done. Look at the history we've made. Look at what we've accomplished. And guess what? Now you get to get your own mansion just like I got mine. I'm sure Sheriff Clem was the first to greet him. And then when they got together, I think they walked over and they saw Hope County's former sheriff. Hope County had quit calling me, man. Like, leave me a message. Like, I'm in the middle of something. If it's not if it's not an emergency, don't do that. Leave a message and I'll call you back. And for anybody who's trying to call me right now, I'm doing this. I'm getting frustrated. Now, back to what I was saying. The former sheriff of Hope County, I'm gonna put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Hold up.
Yeah, I better not call because he's gonna cuss the next one.
Nah, I'm like, you don't call me back to back in the 2-minute span. Leave me a voicemail. Hang on.
Yeah, I better not there. He gonna cuss.
Hold on, I'm gonna take this call.
All right. Well, while he's taking that call, man, hey, all y'all know tomorrow's homecoming. There's probably be a lot of tailgating, a lot of people woot and whatnot. Hey, y'all look at the Abbey. Look at the picture. Yeah, hit a thumbs up for that picture, man. See that face? That face right there. Oh, he disappeared. Oh man, we gotta add him back. He should pop back in here. But anyway, man. Yeah, Mars homecoming. Uh, don't really know too much about us losing on homecoming, from what I know.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, there you go.
All right, and the thing about, and it wasn't even anything important or anyway.
Mm-hmm.
People who know me, unless in general, unless it's an emergency, if you call me and I don't answer, leave me a message or text me. Don't call me 3 or 4 times back to back to back over nothing. Now, back to what I was saying. Hope County's former sheriff, they had a few years ago, they had a gentleman who's the first elected African American sheriff as well, and he also is no longer with us. And what I was saying is now, Sheriff Reed, Sheriff Clemens, and the gentleman of Hope County, they could sit there together, and they can talk. They can sit there and talk about what they accomplished. They can talk about the trail that they blazed. And like I said, I'm sure those 2 gentlemen were the first ones to welcome Sheriff Reed when he entered the building. So Sheriff Reed doesn't have to worry about anything anymore, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't commend the life and legacy of this man. I met him several times. He was a man who always was embedded in the community. He would be at Anson games. I hadn't seen him recently, but he used to come to games. I met him when he was running for sheriff, and I never forget this. I'm gonna tell a story. The first time I met him, I was going out to the voter registration office for early voting. This is back in the year 2014. And I'm very open about this. And when he was running for sheriff, I originally was not a supporter. I was a supporter of Lieutenant Ricky Little, who was also running for sheriff at the time, a longtime family friend, still a family friend, Lieutenant Little is like an extra uncle. He's to me, he's family. So that's who I was supporting. And I remember when I went up to pick up a sample ballot. You know, you see Miss Vancine Sturtevant and all the Democrats sitting in one spot. Then you look over, you see the Republicans sitting on their tent in the other spot. And it's always funny because when you pull up, it's like both of them are trying to get your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that know me knows that I have an independent mind. I already know who I'm voting for before I even pull up, and I vote based on my principle, not necessarily based on just solely on who's with what party. Because
right.
I believe that you should vote your conscience, not just a singular party. Because I look at the individual, what an individual's capable of, no matter what political affiliation they have. Nevertheless, I remember Sheriff Reed walked over. He was then a state trooper, but a candidate for sheriff. He walked up to me and he said, "Young man, have you made up your mind on who you're going to vote for?" And I said, "Yes, I have, but I'll still shake your hand. How you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
He just smiled and he's like, "I'm Landry Reed. I'm running for sheriff." And I said, "I know who you are." I said, "When I go to the bank," I said, "your wife assists me anytime I go to the credit union." And then a moment later, candidate and deputy Josh Beam, the son of my 12th grade English teacher, Rick Beam, walked up to me and he shook my hand and he said, "I'm Josh Beam. I'm running for sheriff." And I looked at him. I said, "I know who you are." I said, "Your daddy taught me in English." And then a minute later, Rick Little walked up to me. Then Sergeant Rick Little, now Lieutenant Rick Little, walked up to me and he reached his arms out. He said, "Hey, man." I said, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Now, this is my family friend right here." And Sheriff, then candidate Reed looked up and said, "Friend of the family?" And just paused. And I said, "Yes, sir." And I bet he thought, well, there goes that vote. And so, and of course, I cast my vote for for the man that was then known as Sergeant Little. But of course, the people of Anson County, the majority of the people of Anson County went a different direction, and it ended up being a runoff between candidate Reed and candidate Smith. So I remember a few weeks later when they had the runoff, I went back out there again, and I saw him again, and I shook his hand again, and I said, "When I first met you a few weeks ago, I said I supported a different candidate. I said, but today I've learned how to read." played on his knee, and he busted out, started laughing. And he's a man of his. He was a man of his word too. And my uncle was there, the same one who just kept calling me 3 times. And he walked up to Reed and said, "You'd have been to every church in Ansel County, but you haven't come to ours." He said, "Our people want to see you and hear you too." He said, "I'll be there tomorrow." And I thought he was blowing smoke. But then the next day, I'm in church. I see somebody walking in, and he and his wife walking into church. I said, "Well, good guy, he kept his word." And I'll tell you what I like the most. When he got up and spoke and did his campaign presentation, he was respectful of the time. He was respectful of our pastor. And what I like the most is he stayed to the very end of service. Listen to preaching. He stayed to the benediction. It's rare that a politician comes to your church and actually stays. They take up your time and then dip. He actually stayed. And from that point on, I gained a lot of respect for him just because of his integrity and because he was a man of his word. And so I think, speaking of Mr. Rick Bean, my former 12th grade English teacher, I love the summary he made last night. He said, "We lost a great man." He said, "We lost a fair-minded man." I think when you say fair-minded man, that describes Sheriff Reed perfectly. And that's a big loss for Ansel County. One thing I will say is there will never be another Landry Reed because the history he made can have only been made once here. So the trail that he blazed could never be redone. No one will ever fit the shoes of Sheriff Reed. So I want to leave Sheriff Reed with a salute, a job well done, and a life well lived from a great man. So I render this salute to the Honorable Sheriff Landry Reed.
There it is. Charles Holland has a question right here.
You read it since you told me?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. What do you guys think that Ralph has brought to the Ansel County football in comparison to his previous tenures? I'm sorry. That's a good question. And I'll let you answer that because...
That's a great question. What has he brought that's different than from I think personal accountability is something that he stresses. I'll give him credit for he and I'm not saying the others haven't, but I think he stresses on teaching these young men or preparing these young men for the real world and try to let them know there are consequences for your actions, and there has to be personal accountability. One thing about Coach Jackson is an African American man, and he understands the things that African American man will encounter. And knowing these young men, African American boys, knowing these statistics are not in the favor for people who look like me, for people who look like you, for people who look like Coach Jackson. I'm not blaming anybody for that, but what I'm saying is just statistically speaking, the numbers don't always look favorable to us, whether it comes to incarceration, whether it comes to health, whatever the case may be. Statistically, going into the real world, the numbers sometimes don't favor us. And I think he's trying to prepare these men to actually be good, productive citizens. He has them working in the community, doing a lot of volunteer work under the auspices of the team. He demands that when they speak to adults, they have to say yes, sir, yes, ma'am. He's a big proponent of all of that. I think that level of love, and I'm not saying that any predecessor didn't love the kids, but you can tell the difference of, hey, you and I come from the same side of the track, so I don't want you to fall through the pitfalls. So my love for you is genuine because I know your story, because what you're going through, that could have been me, or at some point that was me. I think that that surrogate fatherhood element is something that lasts beyond football, and I think it's pure and genuine. So I think he does bring that element to it. So I think as far as what he brings that's different from what his predecessors brought, I think is that the personal connection, even after football, that fatherly, like familial type, the connection that remains beyond the team. I think that's what stands out the most of what he brings to the program. That was an excellent question.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the same thing. I think he's trying to help. I understand that a lot of people are, I know it's at the end of the day, wins and losses, whatever. But I mean, he's trying to help people more so outside of football, becoming citizens in the real world. Showing them that if you do this, this could go bad. But if you do this, things could turn out the way you want to. Not right now. Never know when, but if you keep following the good path, things will work out for you somehow, some way. So I think that he's trying to instill them that people do care about you. You're not nobody doesn't love you. Because some people don't actually have that. Some people have broken homes, and they might need something like that. You never know; it might change somebody's life, day, or whatever. So look at it that way. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
what I
think.
would like to see though, I would like I want him to win more ball games. This is fair what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
knows he knows me well and I know him and I respect him. We're cool. I like him. I'm one of his biggest cheerleaders. So but my biggest knock is that he's an excellent teacher and molder of men,
Mhm.
but the results on the field just have not been there consistently over a 7 year span. And this is something that, I mean I've said to him. So this is not like I'm talking about him behind his back. At the end of the day, the ultimate expectation is for you to win ball games. And that hasn't been done at a consistent level, at a high level.
Mhm.
And there have been too many times where we've lost games like last Friday, games that could have gone either way, that we end up falling apart and let slipping away from us. And when that continues to be a trend, it's like, all right, man, we got to find a way. And I wish he's a good dude. And I'm not saying that he's not tough. I'm talking about overall, I wish I could see him a little more fired up.
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
I would. Sometimes I want to see him get mad. I want to see that emotion out of him. And I get it. He's a cool, calm, collected dude. That's his personality. He he reminds me kind of like that CEO who has to who has people delegate things out to. And what I will say, a lot of it falls on. I know that there are people who are working against him. Um, we all know that. I know there are people who should be in his corner who are doing things to make it difficult for him to do his job.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
When you and I know I'm beating the dead horse from the city. You take away 4 assistant coaching positions from his staff, and you leave him with only 6 assistants. Last year he only had 4. This year he only had 6. He'll be the first to tell you that it's going to be hard to get. He told in the podcast when he talked to us, he said when you have a bunch of volunteers and don't have that many coaches, he said you're not going to. When you have a lot of volunteers, you're not going to get quality coaching. He
Right.
said that, so he knows that,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been handicapped right now. To where, of course, this team is going to be difficult for this team to get quality coaching because he doesn't have a full staff. This is back-to-back seasons. He's been told to go out there and prepare a team with the skeleton of a staff,
That's impossible.
and that's impossible. And for
So you go ahead, because I was gonna say something else, but you go ahead. I'm keep that to myself.
I got to watch what I say too. But to those who did that to him, especially, and again, I like the AD. I like him a lot. He's a very nice man. But I'm hoping he's a coach as well, so he understands the resources that are needed from a coach.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that he's hearing Coach Jackson's plea when Coach Jackson telling him what he needs. Because just he coaches basketball himself, the AD does, so he knows the importance of having your resources.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
hoping when Coach Jackson tells him what he needs, he's listening. Because no matter what you say about Ralph has never been given a full deck of cards to work with since he's been here. He's never been given a full deck of cards.
Nope.
And so it's very difficult to be successful. Granted, he's responsible for winning with what he has. I don't take that away. But at the same time, he hasn't been dealt the full deck the entire time. And mainly so, I mean, with his coaching staff, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. And it seems like there are people who are trying to sabotage him so he does fail. And that's very unfortunate. Because ultimately, yeah, you may get what you want in the process if you're trying to bring him down. But like Coach Fred Davis said on Facebook the other day, the people you're hurting the most are the kids.
That's it.
Coach Davis, this on Facebook, so I don't mind sharing it. I don't think he minds sharing it because he doesn't mind us being shared. He said last Friday when the game was kind of nip and tuck, he wanted, because he wasn't in the press box because Mr. Adams was back. He said that he asked, could he go in the press box and see if he could rally the fans, and he said he was told no. I've never seen a program, and this is not on Ralph, this is on administration. I've never seen a program go above and beyond to distance itself from its most successful coach, from his all-time winningest coach.
Right.
I've never seen it. And it's not like he's in battle. It's not like he's a guy who's been in trouble. It's not like he's a guy who's had legal part. He's not disgraced. His career ended gracefully. He retired as a principal from Waysville Primary School gracefully on his own terms. This is not an embattled person who's had reputational issues or had scandalous issues or anything like that. So I'm not understanding.
Thank you. I agree. That absolutely.
And once I finish my statement, read it out to me. But I'm not understanding why they're going out of the way to distance themselves from him as if they don't want him to be a part of the program when he was overseeing the program when it was at its most successful point. But go ahead, Nick. Read what the gentleman was saying.
Charles says if he was dealt more coaching options, then that would put him over the top to a top tier winning program. The politics in this county is holding us back. We need to reform in our leadership positions. I agree, Charlie.
We definitely need reform in our leadership positions, and it starts at the very, very top. Because, like you said, you're hitting heavy now when you mention the politics.
Yeah, I agree. With
that.
And
the politics also handicap the coach too. Because some certain times, I feel like certain personnel and that kind of thing is influenced by the politics of the county.
Yeah.
I feel like the freedom of what and the latitude he has is determined by the politics of the county, because it's too many people that want to put their hand in things when you should let the football coach the football team.
I agree.
But it's almost like they look at him as someone that they can push around.
I put it like this, I'm going to say this as honest as I can. If he was in that position, that particular person position he was in, I don't think he would have done the same thing to that person. Meaning, if Ralph was in the position that this person that's trying to make him fall, I don't think he would have did that to that person if they were in his shoes.
No, Ralph wouldn't do anything to hurt anybody. Ralph's an honorable man.
Right.
No matter how you feel about Ralph and what his success or lack thereof has been coaching Anson County, I don't think there's anyone that can say that can question the quality of a human being that Ralph Jackson is. Ralph, you won't find a finer human being than Ralph Jackson. Ralph Jackson's an honorable man. He's an honorable coach. He represents well. He's always where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. There's no scandal with Ralph Jackson. He's a loving husband and father. He supports his children. He supports his wife. As far as a human being, Ralph Jackson is as good as a human being as you will meet, and he wouldn't do anything to hurt anyone deliberately. So,
yeah,
I know that Ralph Jackson wouldn't do it. To those who are out to hurt him, I know if he was in their shoes, he wouldn't do the same thing to hurt them. Ralph Jackson is a team guy, and if you're on his team, and I mean that if you're his colleague, he's not going to do anything to hurt you. If anything, he's going to go out of his way to stand by you to make sure that we're all in a good position. He's one that, and he's going to make sure that everybody eats before he eats. That's
Right.
the kind of man that Ralph Jackson is, and that's why I so badly want to see him succeed.
I agree.
No, I'm pulling for Ralph Jackson. I want him to win. It's just that ultimately you got to get the results though,
Yeah. You got to get the result. But,
and it doesn't make it any easier for him. Like the gentleman said, Charlie Holly said, with the politics of the county. And one thing about people like Tim McMahon, he was on here a couple of years. Tim McMahon let him know from the beginning, I'm the coach of this team. You stay where the f you're at, and let me, and I'm going to handle my job.
that's right.
Coach Emery was the same way, and Coach Davis, he ran his program too, and he didn't have all these hands in the cookie jar. Even Coach Grooms didn't have didn't have his hand have all these hands in the cookie jar. When Coach Grooms was head coach, Coach Grooms ran his team, and he didn't allow outsiders to come here and interrupt with how he ran his team.
He didn't. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, you played under Coach Grooms, so you would know that.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I can 100%.
And of all those men I mentioned, Coach Emery got his soul. Coach Davis, of course, who's a friend of ours, friend of the show. Coach Grooms, who's a friendly guy. Always, we saw him about a month ago. Always for a good laugh. Coach Grooms is a hilarious guy. Always, you're always gonna get a laugh when you talk to him. A guy who's always kind of got that happy-go-lucky, cheerful personality, and of course Coach McMahon, who I never really got to know, but I had nothing but immense respect for the way he ran the program, how he coached the team. All of these men that I'm talking about were guys who had successful tenures coaching Anson County.
Right.
And then, and I want Coach Jackson to have that same success. And his colleague, Coach Hyatt, coached Anson before too. When he first got here, he saw success, and then it became a struggle as the years went on. One thing about it though, I think Coach Hyatt and Coach Jackson are working together strongly. I think they really do have a bond. Coach Hyatt is from here, and I think he wants to see Anson win. And I think Coach Hyatt is sincere in his support of Coach Jackson. And I think, both of those guys are good men. I think Coach Hyatt, I finally met Coach Hyatt down there in Marlboro County at the Jamboree. And I think Coach Hyatt is a fine man too. A very nice guy. And I think he wants the program to do well. And I think that he and Coach Jackson together are two excellent men, two men who actually care. And I think they both want to see this program succeed. The thing is, the resources, we've been stripped of resources. And what bothered me, we haven't been stripped of resources by outsiders. We're being sabotaged by our own people. We're being sabotaged by blue and orange people. That's what bothered me. It's people who are in leadership, people who are part of our local system, who are working against the program. It's almost as if there are people in leadership who want to see the program lose just so they can get their handpicked person in position. And then the thing about it, whoever they handpick is going to be someone they pick up from the dollar store.
Unfortunately,
because because that's what they're doing. They're doing dollar store things. They've handicapped this man where he can't get a staff. They've put him in a position where he has to get his coaches from the dollar store of whatever's left. And when you go out there and as an administration, when you make dollar store decisions, when you make dollar store purchases, you get dollar store results.
And here's my thing, and I get that whatever happened that year after that, but I'm trying to figure out the reason that they broke that staff up after 19, the one that they actually had.
Well, some of them left on their own. Like you gotta understand. Well, like I think Schenkel, he moved out of the area.
Right.
Marshall moved out of the area. I'm talking about personal family reasons.
Yeah.
That first year, Nelson took some time off, I think, for just personal reasons, just to take time to himself to just to make sure that he was doing well health wise. I think that was personal. You had a lot of guys who left it. I don't know. Quan Sturgeon, I think, left the area, moved from the area for just personal reasons. Nothing bad, but personal reasons. Right. So you got a lot of guys who left for personal reasons. You got even prior to then, a few years prior, Richard Davis is probably the smartest, most cerebral coach you had. He ended up becoming a head coach. I know he was gone by 2019, but the point I'm making is he was probably the most cerebral guy you had on the staff. Richard Davis was the only assistant that you had who was even capable of becoming a head coach that was on the staff.
Right.
When so you lost a lot. Just happenstance. Like when you look at Coach Davis, when he was coaching the team, he had there were multiple coaches who went on to become head coaches under him. Even if you look at Grooms, he even like a guy like Ed Masterson, Jared Troxler, those are guys who went on to become head coaches. So you had capable assistants on those staffs.
You did.
Right. Whereas if you look at now, there ain't a God heaven soul on that staff who will ever be a head coach. And that's not a knock on nobody. But I mean, it's just
I get you. Yeah. Right.
Man, God heavens, Coach Hyatt, the only person on the staff who's ever even been a head coach who would even have another shot at becoming one anywhere else. Aside from that, there ain't a God heaven soul on that staff who will ever be a head coach. I'm talking about of those who've never been one. There ain't a God heaven soul on that staff who will ever be one, or whoever be considered. There ain't a God heaven soul on that staff who will ever be a coordinator anywhere else. I promise you that. The best assistant coach, aside from, and I'm excluding Coach Hyatt because he's been a head coach before, but I'm talking about of the guys who've never been head coach before, the best assistant you got is a guy that's not even being paid.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's one of your volunteers.
2 words to prove y'all's point. But I think he's in that same situation, Charles. I think he's not. I want to say he may be in this area, but I don't think he is in this area like that.
I don't know Barkwell personally, so I don't want to speculate on why he's not at Anson. And I know some of his church family and all that stuff too. I know his mother-in-law and father-in-law are friends of my family and stuff, so I don't want to just sit here and like I'm just talking about him. So I really don't know. One thing I would say is that Barkwell is one of the greatest players to ever play for Anson County, ever suit up in a Bearcat uniform.
Absolutely.
We don't do a good job with celebrating our legends, and at least with the football program. It seems like there's been a lot of distance from our legends, from the guys who actually did it and actually had success. Barkwell's one. When it comes to Anson greats, he's probably one of the top 5 players that ever played for Anson in any era.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And not only was he a great player, Barkwell is very smart. Barkwell was smart enough to go to Virginia Tech even if he didn't play football.
Yep.
So great intellectual, and he coached at Forest Hill for a little while. I don't know if he's still coaching or not, but
I'm not sure if he is. I want to say I don't know if that's true or not, but I think he had something dealing with athletics. I don't know if he's the AD or he's helping the AD.
Jake Thomas is the AD at Forest Hill, but hey, Barkwell, if you're listening, man, come holler at us one day, man. We'd love to have you. We love just to have you on, man. I've never had a problem with Barkwell. He's always been cool. A guy who's Barkwell Rivers is a guy, as a player, is a guy you want your current players to model themselves after. Barkwell Rivers does things the way they're supposed to be done. He's a great human being, smart guy, great athlete. He's a guy, a man of faith and all that too. I have nothing but good things to say about Barkwell, and I wish that he was a part of our program. I'll put it like this: when number 34 ran up there in that field, you better know where he was.
I want to do something one day. It's probably gonna be a while. I don't know exactly when. I might do it when season ends. I want to put together like a all-time offense and defensive Bearcat roster.
Man, like position by position, I would love that.
That's something we can do at the end of the season. I'm down to do it. We'll make that something towards the end of the when the season's about up. We'll do.
You know who I would love to have as guest panelists on that.
Yep.
Reach out to Coach Davis because he told me that he would love to come on if we invited him.
I'm gonna talk to him. I know he'll be there tomorrow, so I'm definitely gonna.
Yeah, talk to him and see if we set it up because, I mean, I didn't just want to invite him on without talking to you first. So,
hey man, what's good for the program? If you it's good if you feel that was the same opportunity.
Yeah, but I respect protocol, and for any of those who's watching, this is not my show. This is Nick's show, and so I'm going to always respect him. And if anything about you, I'm going to run it by him first.
Yeah, I get it, but I tell you, hey man, hey.
Yeah, it's just that I believe in respecting protocol. This is your show, and I'm not going to step above boundaries and go over your head and do something without running it by you first. And that's just who I am.
I guess. But you know me, I don't.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I feel you. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have Coach Davis on there.
Yeah, I might.
It would be nice, man. I don't really have Groom's contact information. It'd be nice to maybe get Davis and Grooms, and like we get the debating over it and stuff, man.
I get up with Grooms. Don't worry about that.
Yes, see if that guy like for that if we can get Davis and Grooms together,
Yeah.
and it could be like the kind of like the boys are back in town type thing.
Yeah, we'll do it like that, and I'll see what they want to do. We can put together all four of us can put together a roster.
Yeah, I like we go position by position. We name the person anyway. We can figure out the logistics of it, but
yeah.
I would definitely love to have Coach Davis. If you get Davis and Grooms, that'd be great. But I definitely would like to have Coach Davis on there. Anson got to do a better job of how we treat our legends, man. How we treat our alums, how we treat our emeritus people. Got to do a better job, and it's a shame that it seemed like they want to. It's almost like they want to keep him away from the program. I don't get it.
I don't know why. Like that guy, he has every right to get in that booth, and I don't care how nobody feels when I say this. That man has every right to do whatever he wants to at that stadium. Because guess what? He put the butts in them seats.
Yeah, that stadium was built on his. That stadium was built on his program.
Exactly. He has every right to do whatever he wants there. And
that stadium, when they left Woodruff Stadium and came to that stadium out there in 74, that was built on his program. And a lot of the people who were in administration weren't even around when that happened. But if only they knew. And they know but we lived through it. We saw it.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as that man should be able to tell him no and something. He said, I need to go tell them how I feel at the board meeting. Hey, do
it. Hey, you're a taxpaying citizen.
You got every right.
You got every right to let your voice be heard.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Holly, let your voice be heard. It starts with you.
Yep. Hey man, you pay taxes like you said. You got the right to go and talk and speak your mind. They can't tell you nothing about it. They can't tell you can't. Cause guess what? You have a freedom of speech.
Yeah.
They have to listen to you.
Yeah, I want to delve off a little bit. There's a welfare queen that we haven't talked about, man.
Uh-oh.
You know who the welfare queen is, don't you,
Nick? I don't want to say
there's a welfare queen down in southern Mississippi.
Hey, look, man.
He spent a little time in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Then he had a couple of coffee up in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Then he moved to Minnesota for a little bit, and then he went back home to southern Mississippi. Got on that welfare.
Hey, look, man. They told Jameis Winston he was more of a criminal for stealing $32 for crab legs than Brett Favre taking $1 million for food stamps.
Now, granted, Jameis Winston got accused of other stuff too, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, mine is dead.
Yeah, I'm just saying I get what you're saying though. But just to put it in context, the reason with the Winston thing is because of the other stuff. So it's like a culmination of things. But to the point at hand, all this, and I'm getting a little political, but terms like welfare queen and terms like liberals want to live off the back of the government and want to take the money that people like you and I work for and use it to subsidize their lifestyle and all that stuff and the whole welfare queen thing. Then you got this millionaire retired NFL player who earned millions of dollars in earnings and in endorsement money.
And got food stamps.
And this dude getting food, stealing from the state of Mississippi, and the governor helped him. And far as I know, politically is conservative as well. The hypocrisy and the fact that you're not hearing outrage from the right on this. And by the way, anybody know my ideology? I'm kind of a centrist. So I mean, I criticize liberals and I criticize conservatives. I criticize both of them when it's warranted. So it's not like I'm So I'm not speaking for bias because I talk junk about liberals and conservatives. Because I talk junk about Adam Silver for being a liberal appeaser, and I talk junk about Roger Goodell for being a conservative appeaser. So I talk junk about both of them. So when it's warranted, I'm just gonna call a spade, whether it's liberal or conservative. I just call a spade. And in this situation, you got a rich man stealing from the poor. He's the opposite of Robin Hood. Robin Hood stole from the rich and gave it to the poor. This guy's stealing from the poor to get himself richer.
Right.
This guy stole welfare money and a food stamp scam with all the money that he has. And we're just acting like he should be in prison. He should be thrown under the jail.
They should lock both their asses up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, him and the governor. That's corruption at its finest.
Right.
I know they're doing the thing, Caesar stuff, Mar-a-Lago, or whatever. But they need to go head over to Mississippi and take care of that business.
But look, the bad thing was he texted and said, "Well, don't hope this doesn't get out to the public."
So that alone lets you know you're hiding something.
And
this here, people, no matter what your political ideology is, this is theft. Yeah, this man is stealing from funds that are designed for the poor to enrich himself. This is theft.
That's theft from the federal government.
This is a white collar crime, stealing federal funds. He and the governor were in cahoots. This is pure theft, and he should be in prison, in federal prison.
I see,
and I got a feeling he's not going to prison anywhere because, and I hate to say this, but because he's a wealthy white man, he's not going to be held to the same accountability that anyone else will be held to.
Yeah, thank you. What I just said, they ain't gonna get nothing but a slap on the wrist.
Yep, that's it. I doubt if he'll even get probation.
He ain't getting that. He might lose some endorsements, but again, it's not gonna get him jail time. So
the thing about it, I ain't even hardly see anything about it on TV yet.
Nope, you ain't gonna see nothing on TV because they got their hush money. It's finna get thrown away.
I'm like, if that would have been Donovan McNabb.
Oh, he been in prison.
And it'll be all over the news.
Yep, every day. They've been breaking.
I don't want to hear anybody talk about liberals wanting to use the government money, trying to steal from the government or wanting to rely on the government when you got this rich, wealthy white man who's a former NFL player, a legendary NFL player, worth multiple millions of dollars in a food stamp scam.
Hell, I can't even get food stamps.
I can't get them. I don't want them, and I don't need them. I ain't trying to get them. But my point is, you got this everything I got, I work for with my own money. This house that you see in the background, this is from my hard work. But to the point I'm making, you got this rich, wealthy man stealing from the federal government and a white collar crime and a food stamp scam, stealing from the poor in Mississippi.
Absolutely.
And I'm not seeing the outrage behind it. I'm like, this is a big deal, and it's just okay. And the people who usually scream that and people who frankly scream about welfare queens and black folks wanting to rely on government instead of working hard and all this stuff, those people who scream and who champion that are quiet. People like Jason Whitlock who scream that thing are quiet.
But guess what?
It doesn't matter whether you're a liberal or conservative. If you see right is right and wrong is wrong.
It's wrong. But guess what? In that statistical fact, if you think about it, and statistically, this is fact. White people are on food stamps more than black people.
That is true. That is a statistical fact. Now, maybe the per capita numbers may be a little different, but as far as just a number, that is true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my mom, I'm not gonna get in my mom's profession. Never mind. But
yeah, I know. Yeah, but
I'm not gonna get in her profession. I know she's retired, but I'm not getting in her profession. But I just know that for a fact as well, and I'll leave it at
that. Yeah, they ran to the crab for some crab legs.
Yes, they sure did. And typically, anytime a black person has a misstep, it gets run to the ground. Look at Ime Udoka right now. This man has been running the ground for a consensual relationship he had with a staffer. And I want to make one thing clear.
I'm gonna let you get your point out. I'm gonna get into that too because I got some stuff on that.
There's been conflicting reports coming out. At first, it was reported that it was Allison Feaster, former Charlotte Sting player and former Chester High School Cyclone and high school classmate of my brother. But then reports later came out that it was not Allison Feaster. So one thing, if it was not Allison Feaster, I hope she sued the heck out of whoever reported that and put her name out like that. So because if she didn't do that, she didn't deserve to have her name dragged through the mud on that. Number two, This man has been suspended an entire year over a consensual relationship. Man, I know people are talking about having an affair and cheating on his fiance and all that. That's a moral issue between he and his fiance. That has nothing to do
Wait,
with his job.
that's a whole year?
Yeah, they suspended him a whole year.
Oh wow.
I've seen people get less punishment for actual crimes they committed.
I
He's
seen people
probably going to
get
get more
less
games.
worse.
That's more games than I've seen guys get for domestic violence.
I seen Ron Artest. Well, Ron Artest did get 40.
Yeah, he got 73 games the whole season. But my point is, this guy got suspended a whole year for a consensual relationship.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point where your employer is trying to dictate who you can sleep with.
So I would say this, because the story, like you said, that person, that it wasn't her. And on top of that, they claimed that he cheated on Nia Long, but people know they weren't together anymore.
Oh, they weren't?
No, they were not together. They had a kid, and they were just good co-parents. So they
and my point is, even if they were, that's between them. That ain't got nothing to do with your job. Your job is not here to dictate and police your marriage or your relationship.
Right. But I say this, and there's jobs in other places that do the same thing everywhere in America.
Dude, and I ain't gonna get. I'm not gonna tell where I work at, but even in my job, I didn't seen stuff like that, and I'll leave it to that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's not nothing abnormal. It was consensual. That means she agreed upon the conditions of the act, and there was no foul play. No.
And how did the organization find out who he's sleeping with anyway?
I think they were jealous. I would put it at that. I feel like whoever knew that they were messing around was mad that they couldn't, so they felt like they had to tell.
Yeah, if I them, I just denied it. I mean, it ain't like they had a camera in their bedroom to see them together.
No, but I mean, I guess they did the honorable. Well, I don't know.
If I was you, because they say you don't consider him resigning, he can get a job anywhere. If I him, I tell him to kiss my, you know what, and say F y'all.
Yeah, I go there. Shoot. Charlotte, like somebody said earlier, I seen the Charlotte Hornets group. We missed out on that fireball.
I saw that too, and Vince, I love you, buddy, but I'm talking about you loved that. Hindsight is 2020. He's still on Borrego's, you know what, so bad where it's like, dude, Borrego's gone. Get over it.
He's not coming back.
Jeez, and that hindsight is 2020. We didn't know that was this was gonna happen.
No. This was
Vince Dunlap is on Borrego's jock so hard. I mean, at this point, he's coming off like a stand to where anything that's dealing with somebody else being hired over Borrego, he'll come back and find something happen and find a post from 3 years ago and be like, "Oh, this aged well." I'm like, get an effing life, dude.
Hey, but at this point, though, look, man, I feel if he leave, he leave. That's their fault on that too. And because, like I said, man, When I seen the story last night, I was like, what is he getting suspended for? All I seen was suspension.
Yeah, I thought it was something bad that he did, man. When I first saw that he might be suspended for a year, then when I found out for a consensual relationship.
Come on, man.
And I wouldn't mind having Udoka with Charlotte Hornets now, but I mean, we brought Steve Clifford back. Main thing, Borrego's gone. So hey, Vince, I'm sorry, but Borrego's gone.
Let me show you. Let me give you a perfect example of a consensual relationship that actually happened and nobody said nothing about.
Bill Jackson and Jeannie Buss.
There you go.
Yep, similar type situation. The head coach and one of the co-owners and one of the executives had a consensual relationship for years.
Come on, man! Like really? They like this?
Different uniform.
Yeah, but same situation.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. They playing away games.
You know what I mean.
They playing away games. I get what you mean. They wearing their away jerseys. Anyway, I want to get into what we talked about last week because we always do this before the end of the show. Go through the top 25 games of the week. Last week,
you talking college games? Let's do it.
Yeah, because you know last week you hit the nail on the head. You was right there. I got the message. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I still end up being wrong with some games though.
All right, let's get down to the list. We'll start at number 1. Georgia and Kent State.
Georgia 49-0.
All right. Alabama Vanderbilt.
Alabama by as much as they want.
All right. Number 3, Wisconsin, Ohio State.
Ohio State, but it'll be close for a little while. Ohio State will pull away.
Michigan, Maryland.
Michigan should win that comfortably.
Here's my upset game because you might have another one. Clemson at Wake Forest.
I think Clemson will win, but Clemson's athletes are too good against Wake's athletes. I know that quarterback ain't that good, but the game's that Wake. I think Clemson will still win it.
I'm
But
gonna take Wake Forest.
I think Clemson will win the game something like 28-14. Clemson's still good defensively. I think they'll win the game something like 28-14 or something like that.
I'm gonna take Wake Forest 24-21.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Oklahoma versus Kansas State.
Oklahoma, comfortably.
USC at Oregon State.
USC in a close game, in a very close game, like 27-24, something like
that. Kentucky versus Northern Illinois.
Kentucky will win like 28-7 or something like that.
Okay, here's another one. I'm pretty sure you want to see this one too. Arkansas versus Texas A&M.
Where the game at? In Dallas at the Southwest Classic?
Yep.
Woo!
In Arlington, baby.
That's the whole Southwest Conference game back to Arkansas and Texas A&M and Houston and SMU and all them in the same conference. And Baylor and all them. I'm gonna go with Arkansas.
Okay. Here goes a good SEC game matchup. Tennessee versus Florida.
Rivalry game.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Bishop Darrell B. Starnes. I know he's a big that's our bishop in Amazon Church. He's a big Tennessee Volunteers fan. And so next time I see him, I'm gonna talk junk to him because I bet he's gonna let the Volunteers are back. So or that game at Tennessee or at Florida?
That's at Florida.
I don't know. That's a coin. I'm gonna go with Florida and the nail biter.
Okay.
But that can go either way though. But I want to say Florida by a field goal.
Okay. All right. Next one: NC State versus UConn.
UConn is awful, and this is not basketball. NC State a blowout.
Utah versus Arizona State. Shout out to Herm Edwards.
Herm Edwards just got fired.
Oh, they did fire him?
Yeah, they fired him. He's under investigation anyway by the NCAA, I think. But they just fired him, so that program's in the dumps. So I'm going. Yeah, they parted ways with Herman Edwards the other day. So I'm going with who's Arizona State playing again?
Arizona State. Yeah, Utah.
Going with the Utah Utes.
All right. We got Penn State at Central Michigan.
Penn State, but Central Michigan's not chopped liver, but I'm going Penn State. Okay. Shout out to Brett McElhaney, a big Nittany Lions fan.
We got Oregon at Washington State.
Oregon and nail biter.
Okay. Ole Miss at Tulsa.
Tulsa's not that good right now. I think Ole Miss. It won't be as bad as people think it'll be, but Ole Miss by a couple touchdowns.
Baylor at the Barn Burners, as we like to call them, Iowa State.
I don't know, because Iowa State's not great, but sometimes they'll get that upset win.
Yeah, that's what
Iowa State played in the Big 12 championship game last year too, or 2 years ago. I'm gonna go with Baylor, but I'm not really that sure.
Washington at Stanford.
Washington.
Okay. BYU versus Wyoming.
That used to be a rivalry game.
Yep.
I'm going with BYU, but that used to be a rivalry game. That used to be a Mountain West /WAC rivalry game.
Yep, sure did. The Broncos?
Something like that, yeah. Josh Allen played.
Yep. Texas Tech versus Texas at Texas Tech.
Texas.
Okay. Shout out to the guy that I hope he's getting recovered from that game last week. That was a gruesome injury. So hope he's recovered.
Yeah, I hope anybody who got injured, I hope they're okay or will be okay.
He said Herman was a let go in the field. I think he was when that video when he was talking to the AD and the president after that game last week. I think he probably actually got let go right then or somewhere.
Yeah, I told you they fired him.
What was that? Texas Tech. Okay. Pitt versus Rhode Island.
Yeah, why did Pitt? Why did even play in that game?
Why they why they even play it? Miami versus Middle Tennessee.
Now basketball wise, Pitt versus Rhode Island would be a game. Basketball, Rhode Island used to have good basketball teams, but we said Middle Tennessee versus Miami.
Yeah, Miami by a lot. And as y'all know, the top three same as they've been the last couple. Could probably be the same way for a while. Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. So
yeah.
As far as NFL, I know it's a game on tonight, and I'm pretty sure that's probably not my cup of tea.
Ain't there a college game? There's a college game on tonight too, ain't it?
Coastal Carolina versus Georgia State, and
Georgia State lost to USC Charlotte last week. That was USC Charlotte's first win. USC Charlotte beat them 42-41. That lets you know our defense is still awful.
Shout out to Appalachian State for that last.
We beat them 42-41. We've got 40 points in every game we played this year.
Shout out to Appalachian State for winning at the last minute again.
Yeah, like on the helmet ball got tipped. You know that Strowman who tipped that ball there. Strowman that played receiver at Richmond County.
Yeah,
he's the one that tipped it in order for it to get caught.
God doggone it. Yeah, I'm at this point. I'm just it's whatever. Let's see. Okay, there it is. The score to the NFL game. There you go. 14-13. Steelers are up right now. 2-minute win. The Browns.
Well, I mean, Browns got Brissett out there, so the only thing they probably going to beat him out there was Carolina, but they already did.
I'm not gonna sleep on. I mean, Brissett's not elite, but
he's a good backup. I remember when he played NC State. He started out in Florida, then he transferred to NC State and had a good career at NC State. Yeah, so shout out Jacoby Brissett for if they beat the Steelers, because I want them to beat the Steelers. I don't really care.
Yeah. But let's go. There's some NFL games for Sunday, which we got. We got the Bills versus the Dolphins.
I think the Bills win the game, but still should win and handle it. But depending on where the game is played, you never know. That's division opponent. Division games are usually tricky.
Okay. We got Bengals at Jets. Somebody got to win this week.
Yeah.
Somebody got to get a win. Somebody ain't gonna
get a tie.
Yeah. Well, hey, you might get a tie. It's possible. Raiders at Titans.
I'm gonna say Titans, but I don't know.
Saints at Panthers.
You see the hat on my head, right?
Of course.
So what do you think I'm gonna say?
You gonna say the Panthers?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm wearing the hat.
Ravens versus Patriots.
Ravens versus Patriots. Where the game we played
at? Patriots.
I still think the Ravens win.
Minnesota versus Detroit.
I guess Minnesota, but you never know with them, and they're a tricky team.
Yeah. Commanders versus Eagles.
Probably the Eagles, but that's a division game. You never know. Just like the last one with the Ravens, just like with the Lions and Minnesota. Division games are hard to pick, man.
Kansas City versus the Colts.
I'm going KC.
Here's a good one. This might be a tie. Texas versus the Bears.
So Lovie Smith used to coach the Bears, took them to a Super Bowl. Now that's the part about Lovie Smith's career. People are like, they hired Lovie Smith. They act like he's some scrub. They forgot he took the Bears to a Super Bowl.
He said, next week, let's talk about Matt Rule. I have many questions about that gentleman. That's the man can answer for you right there, Charles.
Hey, hopefully by the time we talk next week, he'll be the former head coach of the Panthers.
I seen that. Was that rumor true that I seen it was a tweet from somebody and it had
that. I saw that too. I have no idea, man. You know when stuff get going and coming out like that, you don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see a Woj on it. And usually Woj kind of reports, I'm kind of like, okay, that might be it might be up there. So, yo, shout out to Daryl in the building.
So
Hurt season.
Things always get better when Daryl Ledbetter is in the building.
Yes, it is. Shout out to Daryl Ledbetter in the building. All right, so we had what was it? Vikings. Where was I at? Oh, Texas.
You had our Vikings and Lions. Then you did the Colts and No, you did a division game between two teams that were in the same division.
I did. Oh, it was Texans and Bears. That's why I was it.
Yeah, Texans. I'm gonna go with Bears, but I don't know. I want Love to get his first win. I'm gonna say Texans. I'm gonna say Love to get his first win.
All right. Jaguars and Chargers.
I don't know the Chargers. I mean, Jaguars beat the hell out of somebody last week.
I think they beat the Texans. No, it wasn't the Texans.
Somebody like 24-0 or something like that.
Or was it the Cardinals? They beat somebody.
Jaguars beat the hell out of somebody like they beat somebody. I didn't think they were gonna beat. They beat them like beat them bad.
They beat the Colts. That's what it was.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with the Chargers, but I don't know.
That's a tricky one. Rams and Cardinals.
I'll go Rams, but Cardinals look a little shaky. I know they won, but they still look shaky to me.
Yeah, because they ain't gonna have their top weapon for the next 4 more weeks, I guess, because that's when he comes. I think that's when
Hopkins.
Yeah, he'd be back week 6 or 7.
Well, they got to win. They got to find ways to win without him.
Yeah. The controversial game, Packers versus Buccaneers.
Where the game played at?
It's supposed to be played in Tampa.
I'm gonna go Packers.
Okay. Seahawks and Falcons.
Location?
Seahawks.
I'm going to Seahawks.
Okay. 49ers versus Broncos. Garoppolo is the starting quarterback again.
The Broncos got Wilson, right? What is the game plan? Play this out. Mike Shanahan used to be the offense coordinator for 49ers and used to be the head coach of the Broncos, and the son Kyle Shanahan is the head coach of the 49ers. So nice dynamic there.
They're gonna be up in old great old Mile High.
I think the 49ers go into Denver and win that game.
I like
That's a familiar opponent. They're familiar with Russell Wilson anyway, playing the same division with him for years.
And here's the next one. Hold up. And the next one was Dallas versus New York Giants.
You gotta say which one. I think the New York Giants go 3-0 and everybody's like, oh my God, they're back. Even though they're gonna finish like 5-12, I still think they're gonna start 3-0. I think they'll start 3-0 and the Giants win the game.
I got the Giants. And it's only because of the lackadaisical Cowboys offense. Even though their offense is not that much better, I feel like my man found some life in his life.
If the Giants get 3-0, can you imagine the media and their fans? They're gonna win. Giants. I feel like Giants are gonna win about 5 or 6 games all year, but I feel like they're gonna win the first 3, and then they're gonna lose like 7 in a row or something like that.
I don't know. That might. Well, I mean,
I think they just had some fortunate bounces, just like against Carolina. I mean, it was a struggling team. They beat them. They came back beat Tennessee, and I think they had some fortunate bounces. But I still don't believe in Daniel Jones, and I feel like they're gonna falter and end up winning 6 games or so.
Yeah. I mean, last week that was more of a Graham Gano's game than Daniel Jones' game. I put it that way.
But Graham Gano plays for the Giants, so yeah. So all those points, those field goals still count.
Yeah, those count. Yeah, that's what I said. So Graham Gano, he made the ones he needed to make. So
he's that good. He's the guy.
He's that guy. He is that guy. But I think that's all the games slated for that week. Was it a Monday night? That was a Monday night game. Yeah, that's the Monday night game. Yeah, that's definitely the Monday night game. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Giants. I feel like the Giants can pull it out because Cowboys do cowboy things. It's Stephen A. Smith. I said because Cowboys do cowboy things. As Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, they're like Milton. They do hood rat things. They do cowboy things for their cowboy friends.
Yeah. So I be enjoying Mondays on First Take when Stephen A. comes out.
Stephen A.
Yeah, we had the hour and 23-minute mark, man. I appreciate y'all for coming through. Hey, tomorrow, man, y'all from the home area, it's homecoming. Come on out and support. We'll be there. I think it's gonna be a couple people tailgating early. So
yeah, I think there's gonna be an alumni tailgating. There's gonna be some other classes tailgating too.
Yeah, so if you can make it out there, I'm probably come out there about 6 and mingle around for a little bit and see if
Oh,
you
yeah,
got.
before I tip, I know we pay homage to the Sheriff Reed. Somebody else I wanted to mention, a friend of my family passed away last week, was funeralized last week. Reverend Shirley Bennett. I'll tell you, she's. If you remember running back Jamie Bennett, he used to play for Anson. She was his grandmother. She passed away the week before last. So was funeralized last week. I don't think we've been on the show since she was funeralized. She was a human and she was somebody too. So I just wanted to pay homage to her and her legacy as well. Actually, she was the person who introduced my mom and my dad to each other. So without her, there would have been no me. So I couldn't exit here without showing some love and paying homage to her and continue to keep her. She's funeralized last week, but continue to keep her family in your prayers as well as they continue to support it and continue to grieve.
Absolutely, man. And with that being said, appreciate everybody for coming through. Appreciate Charles Holler for coming through, dropping some great stuff for us today. Hey, man, come back, man. We love to have you in the show. I've been talking to you on the book. Hey, man, come on back, man. I love the questions that you ask. That's
Great
we
interaction,
look for that. Yeah. So, man, come on back, man. If anything, man, hey, we might work some logistics out. I might get you up here and talk a little bit because I know you know your stuff. So.
Hey, pull up.
Yeah, pull up, man. I get in contact with you on the book. We'll make something happen with that. But hey y'all, good night, man. Peace out, and we'll catch you next week.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah.